Hi there. In this video, we'll be covering how to get a self-help book published. You can publish just about anything these days. It doesn't have to be good, it doesn't have to be time-intensive. But let's explore what it takes to write a book that resonates. A book that has an impact and helps and benefits not only readers, but you as well. By the end of this video, you'll learn how to clarify your book's message, how to choose your publishing path, and why it's crucial to work with professionals on editing and production work. And stay tuned until the end of the video for an opportunity I really think you're going to enjoy. Let's dive in. So you want to write a self-help book. I think that's awesome. We need more self-help books. I'm serious. There's so many awesome reasons to write a self-help book. There's so many different ways that we can challenge and inspire people, change the way that they live and operate, make them better at what they do, make them more accomplished. It's so powerful to take the tips that we've learned ourselves and share them with other people in hopes of providing insight and guidance to them that can help them on their journey. I love that process. I love the ability to, put our tips and lessons down in book form and share them with the world. So I think it's awesome that you're thinking about writing a self-help book, and I want to encourage you. It can be so moving and so beneficial when you write that book and when you help somebody. As you consider your own self-help book, think about the message. What is the message that you want to send? You need to clarify it and make it as simple as possible. When you think about the 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss, that book makes sense. From the moment that you look at the cover, when you hear the title, you know what it means. When you hear about Atomic Habits by James Clear, you immediately know what it means. That book's going to help me make better habits so I can improve my life. You want people to understand what your book is about without having to think about it, which takes time. You need to clarify your message to one sentence. Clarify it to one sentence, maybe even a couple words. If you can't do that, you don't have a good idea. It needs to be clear. It needs to be so simple. So simple. Your message has to be super clear. Think about How to Win Friends and Influence People. Books like that, these iconic, timeless books. They resonate because they're simple. Your book needs to be simple too, and if it's not simple, it's not going to resonate. It's not going to have the impact you want it to have. So you really need to step back and think about what's the simplest, most basic explanation of this message. Because if you can do that, if you can synthesize this and simplify it down to one sentence or a couple words that just immediately makes sense, it's going to make this infinitely easier for you. Simplifying and clarifying, awesome, super important. The next thing that you want to think about is what makes your book unique. What makes your book different from every other book out there? Because if you're writing the same exact book that somebody else has already written, if you're writing the next version of Atomic Habits, but it feels a lot like Atomic Habits, no one's going to want to read your book because they're just going to keep reading Atomic Habits. Atomic Habits has sold 20 million copies. The idea that you're going to enter that space and write the next Atomic Habits and write something that feels exactly the same as Atomic Habits, it's not going to work. It's just not. That's not to say that you can't write a book about habits, but if you do, it needs to be different. It needs to be unique. There needs to be a message that separates it. And I would actually think of it in terms of, how's your book different from Atomic Habits? It's like Atomic Habits, but blank. Whatever that blank is. There's a different model, a different framework, a different system that you use. Whatever the case may be, you really need to think about what sets your book apart, because if you don't do that, your book isn't going to stand apart. It's not going to look different. It's not going to feel different, and it's not going to inspire anybody to want to pick it up, let alone act. You want to get people encouraged to pick up your book, excited to pick up your book, because they know what the outcome is. If they pick up your book and read it, they're going to learn all these things that are going to empower them to change their life. If you end up writing the same book that somebody else has already written, if you write the 5-Hour Work Week, it's exactly the same as the 4-Hour Work Week, but there's one more hour work. No one's going to want to read that, so that's a missed opportunity. And you're going to waste your time writing a book that people aren't going to be connected to. So spend the time to make sure that your message and your book is unique and different. I think back to my friend Jonathan Stanley. He wrote a national best-selling book called Purposeful Performance. And it was all about finding purpose and meaning in the workplace. Again, simple, clarifying, makes sense. And he has this system in the book that outlines how we can do that. It really stands out. You know, there's other books about workplaces and about finding meaning in work. He found a way to make that message unique to him, unique to his story, and unique for readers. So when they found him, when he went viral because of a TikTok video in early 2025, people connected with his story because he had a unique story. He had a unique message, and ultimately people were drawn in by it. People were inspired by it. It was awesome to see his success, and his success was in part because he spent the time to clarify his message and made his book unique against all the other workplace books out there. So when attention came to him, he was ready to meet that moment. You know, he was ready to meet readers where they were and share clear, straightforward messages with them and stand out and stand apart in this very crowded space of self-help business books. The next step to consider is to choose your publishing path. There's really two paths that you want to think about. One is traditional publishing, one is self-publishing. If you have a huge platform, if you have a lot of social media followers, if you have a huge platform with tens of thousands of email followers, subscribers, and you have hundreds of thousands of social media followers, and you have a podcast network and all these different things, traditional publishers are probably going to be interested to work with you because you have the ability to sell copies of your book. Self-help books are all about how you can sell copies of them, how you can be the engine that drives that forward. You know, these days traditional publishers are spending less time, resources, and energy behind book promotion, and they're working more and more with authors who can promote and sell books themselves. That you, as the author, are the main driver of the book's success. You know, and that's the case whether you're traditionally or self-publishing. When you traditionally publish, you know, there's a longer process to get the book published. The publisher will actually cover all of these steps, editing, design work, all those sorts of things. They'll cover that themselves. They'll even give you money as an advance against future royalties because they say, you know, we think this book is going to sell a lot of copies, so we'll give you money to publish it. And then when those copies get sold, when the book gets published, the royalties from those books go toward the advance, satisfying the advance. And then once you satisfy the advance, you can make additional money. You know, but that requires a book proposal, which is a 20 to 50 page document. It requires working with a literary agent in a lot of cases. You know, there's a process involved, and there's a lot of gatekeeping. There's a lot of ways that people can tell you no, or this is a bad idea, you know, and just get in the way of what could be a great book. With self-publishing, which is becoming more and more prevalent and more mainstream, you, the author, control everything. You control who you work with. You control how you promote the book, what platforms to sell it on, the price point, the timeline, the title, the cover, everything. Everything is on your plate, which is exciting and scary at the same time because, you know, what if you really don't know, you know, what makes a good book cover? What if you really don't know good book editing, you know? This is why when you think about self-publishing, there's so much power and there's so much enthusiasm about self-help books because you control it, but you need to work with professionals. You need to work with people who know this stuff. You know, it's not enough just to find, you know, your cousin or some friend who knows how to read a book, knows how some editing, you know, that they're going to be able to edit a good book for you. They don't really know sometimes. They might say they know, but they really don't. What actually makes a successful book? Where are they going to challenge you? You want to work with editors and designers who are going to make your book as strong as possible, who are going to bring out your message and clarify it and straighten it out and challenge it. You want to work with professionals that are going to help you as much as possible and in clarifying your story and making it as strong as possible and to bring it out in the most compelling way. But obviously those professionals cost money. So there's a balance at play. When you self-publish a book, those expenses are coming out of your own pocket. But at the same time, you can start making royalties from the books being sold, and you can get a higher percentage of each book sold because there's no publisher. It can be costly. It can be costly to self-publish a book. You know, if you're looking at all the other costs going into it, and then you're looking at the production, design work, publication, all those steps. All those steps from finishing the draft on forward. Everything after finishing the draft, you could be looking at $5,000. Maybe more, maybe less. Maybe you know somebody who does design work and you can have a barter system in place to bring down the cost a little bit. But it can get pricey. It can get costly to publish a book. But think about the outcomes after the fact. Think about the doors that can open from this book. Think about the rooms that it can put you in that you're currently not in. The opportunities that can be created from your book. If you can use your book as a revenue driver, as a lead magnet, as an opportunity creator for you, and a sales and marketing asset for years to come, this could turn into a very successful and lucrative book project for you. But you need to do the work. You need to work with good people, and you need to strengthen this story and make it as strong as possible. If you do those things and work with people who can help point you in that direction, good things can happen. If you don't work with those people and you just do your best, but it's not quite there, the rewards and the outcomes aren't always going to fall into place. Things are going to come up short. It's like a funnel that has openings to it. Everything just kind of filters through and some things fall out. You don't want that. You want people to want to collaborate with you, to work with you, to get the message, to really connect to your story and make this book as strong as possible. So don't be afraid to work with professionals, because it's going to make the book stronger in the end, and it's going to help you get the outcomes that you want from the book, whether it's just to help somebody, whether it's to grow your business, whether it's something else. Work with people who can help you connect yourself to those goals and help you take the next step forward in your life and career. If you want to learn more about how to get a self-help book published, you'll definitely want to watch another video that I created. I'll link to it on the screen. It's called What Are the First Steps in Writing a Book? In that video, I cover purpose, the importance of purpose, as well as the importance of doing book foundation work to strengthen your writing process. Remember, a good book can change your life. I'm Dan Good. Thanks for watching.